Hey guys, how are you doing? Well, it's great to be back with you. And the other day I was thinking about a time when I was younger, much younger. And it was about a time when I hate to say it, I got lost. Now, have you ever gotten lost? It's not fun, is it? I can remember being in the store with my parents just like any other time when I was, probably 6 or 7. And when you're in the store with your parents, it's so much fun, right? No, it becomes kind of boring, especially if they're looking at clothes, right? Well, I don't know about you, but have you ever seen those clothes racks that are like in a circle? Well, do you know that if you go inside there, there's like a little fort of clothes, right? And so I was so bored, I would go into the middle of this clothes rack and I would hide out in there and pretend like it was a fort. My own personal hideout, Rob's Batcave, right? Well, the only problem was when I came out of said clubhouse, I couldn't find my parents. In fact, I'd looked around and they were nowhere. And the first thing that I thought was that my parents had gone home without me. They decided that, well, because Rob's not here and he didn't listen to what we said and he went and hid, we're just going to leave him here in the store since he likes it here better. Well, that's what I thought, and I started to panic. And I'm coming out of the clothes rack and I'm looking to find them wherever they're at. Well, you're only so tall, right? You can't see over anything, and I'm starting to go crazy. And in my mind, I'm thinking, well, I guess I'm going to have to figure out how I'm going to stay here all night. I guess I can still hide in the clothes rack, or what am I going to do for food? And I'm thinking, well, they got snacks at the other end, and I can eat Hubba Bubba Gubba Gum until somebody finds me, right? I'm going to figure this out. And I can remember going around and around trying to find my parents. As you go up one aisle looking for them, nowhere. Until eventually somebody spotted me. And they worked at the store and they realized that, well, I was separated and I looked lost. I had that deer in the headlight look, right? That when somebody's not where they're supposed to be look. Well, I had that. And I was searching and looking and I couldn't find them. But this lady came and said, "Do you need help? Did you get lost?" And I was like, "Yes, I can't find my parents. They've left me." And she's like, "I don't think they left you. Let's see if we can't go find them." And so she goes to the front store, and of course, what do you hear next? "Are the parents of Rob Rockwell still in the store? Will you please come to the front?" Well, by that time, of course, what do you know? Here come my mom and my dad coming up to find me, to get me. They hadn't left me. They didn't leave the store and go home and leave me to fend for myself. They were still looking for me. Well, I did learn not to hide in the clothes anymore, but I also learned that no matter what was going to happen, my parents were always going to be there for me. And that I should probably listen to them a whole lot better or more so that I didn't end up in that same situation. Has that ever happened to you or something like that? Well, in today's story, we're going to hear about a boy and a family who got separated. Well, are you ready? Sit back, relax, and watch this.
Jesus went to the temple. Every year, Jesus' parents went to Jerusalem for the Passover festival. The festival was a special celebration to remember how God saved his people from being slaves in Egypt. When Jesus was 12 years old, he and his family went to Jerusalem again. When the festival was over, Mary and Joseph and those traveling with them left Jerusalem to return home. Mary and Joseph did not know that Jesus had stayed behind in Jerusalem. They thought Jesus was somewhere in their group of travelers. Mary and Joseph traveled an entire day on the way back to Nazareth before they realized that Jesus was not with them. They looked for him everywhere. They asked their relatives and friends about him. No one had seen Jesus. Mary and Joseph turned around and went back to Jerusalem to search for Jesus. After 3 days, they found Jesus in the temple. He was sitting with the teachers. He was listening to them and asking them questions. All the teachers were amazed at Jesus' understanding and his answers. When Mary and Joseph saw Jesus, they were astonished. Mary said to Jesus, "Son, why have you treated us like this? "Your father and I have been searching for you. We were so worried." Jesus replied, "Why were you searching for me? Didn't you know that I had to be in my Father's house?" Mary and Joseph did not understand what Jesus was saying to them. Jesus returned to Nazareth with Mary and Joseph. He obeyed Mary and Joseph. Mary thought about all of the things that had happened. Jesus grew wise and strong. He received the favor of God and the respect of others.
What a great story. Can you imagine Jesus and his parents traveling all the way to where they went? And when they got there with all the people going around and celebrating, I'm sure it had to be crowded. And they did the Passover to remember all the things that God had done for them in Egypt. Well, at the end, of course, it was time to go back home, and Mary and Joseph headed back, and they thought Jesus was still with the family group, but he wasn't, was he? They were separated. And the funny thing, I always find this interesting, is it took them 3 days to realize that Jesus wasn't with them. Now, I think about that. I'm thinking about being myself, that when I was lost, what it would have been like to be in that store for 3 days without my parents. That was kind of weird thinking about that. But the truth of the matter is that Jesus knew exactly where he was. He was in the temple talking to the religious leaders, asking them questions and showing them what he knew. And all of a sudden, Mary and Joseph were panicking, trying to find out where he was. And they go finding him. And I always like to think to myself, did somebody around in the area say, "Hey, you know, there's this kid in the temple that's amazing people. He's so smart." Did they hear that in a conversation and go, "Oh, I bet that's my son Jesus," and they went after him? But the truth is, we don't know. We don't know what made them decide to go to the temple to find him. We don't know. But we know that when Mary and Joseph showed up, you can tell they were frustrated, that they were nervous, and they were worried what was happening with Jesus. But when they find him, what is he doing? He's sitting there talking to the religious leaders. He's doing what he was supposed to do. And Mary and Joseph, they go up and say, "Where were you? We were so worried." And he makes this comment, "Don't you know I was about my Father's business?" Well, Joseph was, his earthly dad, and he's a carpenter. He wasn't doing that. He was letting Mary and Joseph know that his Father is God, and that he was going to do things for God for his life. And that was his purpose of being there, was to do the things that God had planned for them. Even at an early age, he already knew what he was there to do, right? But what I love most about it is he shows absolute respect to Mary and Joseph, right? He could have just turned his back against him and said, "Look, I'm doing what I need to do. You need to go home." But he didn't. He told them why he was there, and then they say he left with them. Mary and Joseph, it's time to go, and he did that. He showed respect to his parents. And what I love about one of the verses in those passages, we learn that Jesus grew in wisdom and favor and size, and that he grew in the sight of God and man. That means that not only was he growing big and strong like he should have, but people around him saw that he was smart, right? And that he was respectful, that people saw him and said, "Man, this Jesus kid is a really good kid. He's a really smart kid. He's a really respectful kid." And not only did we see that, but we see that God enjoyed watching his son grow, and yet man enjoyed seeing Jesus grow too, because of how respectful he was. And so all of this is not that we can tell our parents what to do, but I think he shows us that we need to be respectful, not only to our parents, but to the people around us. Because look, people are always watching what you're doing, right? They see what you do all the time. And so do we want to be in favor with God and our parents? What should we do? Well, A, we respect God, so therefore we should respect our parents, and therefore we should respect the people around us. It's a good lesson to learn. We need to be respectful to people, no matter who they are, right? Big, small, tall, old, young. We need to be respectful not only to adults, but to our friends. And because people are always watching. But most of all, God is watching too. And we are a reflection of Him as Christians. Pretty cool. So this year, maybe we can do this. Think about it this way. Everybody makes a New Year's resolution, right? About what they want to do. Usually when you're older, is about losing weight, right? Or something like that, or being healthy. But what about you? You're probably already healthy. But what can you do to be better? Well, one of the things we can do is be respectful. Maybe that's your key to do this year. Be as respectful as you can to everybody you come in contact with, because you'll find yourself in favor with God and man. All right. Well, you have a great day, but let me pray before we go. Dear God, I thank you so much for showing us what your Son did at even age 12 to show us how to live and be respectful, not only to you, but to the people that are around us and to our friends, and show us how we should act, God. And we thank you so much for that. God, we love you. We hope for a great year this year, and we thank you for all that you've done for us. In your Son's name, amen. All right, guys, you have a great time, and I'll see you next week. Bye.